tracking Tropical Storm Idalia, which is soon to be Hurricane Idalia, and will bring impacts to the CSRA mostly on Wednesday. We have Viper 6 alert days in effect starting tomorrow, continuing into Wednesday, and I'll have all those details coming right up.
Now at 10, how a local church partnering with Golden Harvest Food Bank is bringing food to those who need it most. Plus, Augusta commissioners at odds on how to crack down on panhandling. We have the details. And the first medical cannabis dispensary in the CSRA. What the community has to say. More on that as your news at 10 starts now.
Live from Television Park, this is WJBF News Channel 6 at 10 on MeTV.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dee Griffin. Thanks so much for joining us. Coverage you can count on begins with a first look at our weather. Here's meteorologist Jennifer Tracci, who is tracking Idalia.
That's right, Dee. We're keeping a very close eye on Idalia, but right now we are also watching a few storms across the CSRA that are bringing some very heavy rain, thunder and lightning, and most significantly, some flooding. We have an aerial flood advisory in place for a few counties. Notice those showers and storms all to the south of I-20, stretching anywhere from Glasscock, Washington County over into Aiken County. But my main focus is on this aerial flood advisory for a portion of Barnwell, Burke, and Aiken counties. This goes until 10:45 p.m. and we've had this ongoing heavy rain across the last couple of hours. And check out these rainfall totals. Wow, 6 inches right along State Highway 25 there. Fortunately, a somewhat unpopulated area. This is outside of Aiken and Augusta, but still, some of these towns here definitely dealing with some flooding, and of course some poor drainage areas around this location with some low-lying areas as well, and that's where that flooding is most likely. And even 5.5 inches just outside of Hancock Landing, or around the border of South Carolina and Georgia. So a pretty decent-sized area of that 5 to 6 inches of rain, but just the north of it, our Terry Lambert Hyundai Skyview cam over in downtown Aiken, not looking bad at all. A little bit damp outside, but not a whole lot of rain. Those rainfall totals well under half an inch around downtown Aiken. Today's high was 93 degrees, another hot and humid day around the CSRA. Now we're seeing those mid-70s to low 80s, 73 in Barnwell, 75 in Augusta, 80 still in Millen, 80 as well in Wrightsville, 78 in Sandersville, and 78 as well in Edgefield. Dew points are anywhere from the low to mid-60s, or mid-70s that is. Mid-60s would be nice, but it's still very muggy tonight with a southwest wind 14 miles per hour in Augusta, a little bit breezy with the stationary front draped across our area. That's what's bringing some of that heavy rainfall tonight, which will continue over the next few hours. And of course, all eyes are on the tropics. There's Idalia. Winds at 70 miles per hour will become a hurricane later on this evening and eventually expected to become a major hurricane that will eventually impact the CSRA. So we do have Viper 6 alert days issued Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll have all the details on that and everything you can expect coming up, but back to you, Dee.
All right, thanks so much, Jenna. We'll see you in a few more minutes. A North Augusta City Council member has been arrested and charged with driving under the influence. The officer pulled over Jennifer McCauley after she was reportedly seen driving on East Avenue without her headlights on at 10:30 Friday night. Officers say she drove through a stop sign and was unable to maintain her balance during a sobriety test. McCauley was registered at a 0.1 for blood alcohol level. She is charged with first offense DUI. The patriarch of Georgia Bulldog mascots, Frank Seiler, passed today in his hometown of Savannah due to an illness. Seiler devoted more than 6 decades of tradition to the Bulldogs and have raised a continual line of the mascots for 67 years. The UGA community extends its condolences to the family during this time. A local church is partnering with Golden Harvest Food Bank, helping to feed families in the community. Nikita Dennis is live in the Satellite Center with the story. Nikita.
Yeah, Golden Harvest is continuing to give back by putting food in the hands of those that need it the most. According to food bank leaders, there's always a fight for hunger.
With the back to school just now beginning with our youth in the community here, I think it's very appropriate that we address those families who have children.
Golden Harvest Food Bank and Good Shepherd Baptist Church gave away hundreds of food boxes to families. Each box is 33 pounds with things like cereal, juice, fruits, and other nutritious meals. A line wrapped around the building Monday with people receiving 2 boxes per car.
Over this summer, we received a lot of funding from the state for the Georgia Nutrition Assistance Program, which allows focused funding towards feeding families with children. So several of these boxes that you'll see out here in this distribution going into cars are going directly to families with children.
And it's always room for people with no kids.
We have a second package that we have for those adults who come who may not have children. The thought is here that anyone who comes here who has a need, they're not going to leave here empty handed.
Golden Harvest also has a food pantry to help families on a daily basis.
Hearing the same story every time. There's more and more folks in the line. There's folks who are coming to the line that they have never seen before, who have never gone to a food pantry before. We're definitely facing some different times now, and hunger takes no vacation.
You can keep up with and volunteer to help for upcoming food distributions on the Golden Harvest Facebook page. Live in the Satellite News Center, Nikita Dennis, WJBF, News Channel 6.
The CSRA's first medical cannabis dispensary is coming to Columbia County, and TrueLeave is one of 2 companies allowed to sell medical cannabis in Georgia. The new location across from Academy Sports on Washington Road will be the 5th in the state. Still ahead, Jenna has your full Viper 6 forecast and more on this storm that's coming our way. We'll be right back.
At Tile Center, our passion is for people and the living space they share. We totally understand that your home is a big part of your life, and our goals are to inspire your creativity. We'll help you feel comfortable about transforming your living space into a showplace you can be really proud of. Come see why for yourself at any of our locations at Tile Center or online at tilecenter.com. Your tile and stone experts.
Now, your most accurate forecast with WJBF Live Viper 6.
Good Monday evening. Similar to last night, we're dealing with some isolated flooding concerns. We have a stationary front across the CSRA allowing these thunderstorms to pop up and then just linger. They're really not moving much, and that's what we're seeing now, say anywhere from Washington County over into Aiken County. That's where we're dealing with some showers and storms, but the main focus is on this aerial flood advisory. That's for a small portion of Aiken, Burke, and Barnwell counties, and it goes until 10:45, so around 30 minutes left on this advisory. And the good news is that we're no longer seeing any of that heavy rain in the polygon here, but still that ongoing light rain. And these rainfall totals are very impressive from Hancock Landing all the way across State Highway 25. We have 6 inches of rainfall, 5.5 inches of rain just outside of that as well, and 3 inches around this entire area across those 3 counties. So very significant amounts of rainfall. And this particular portion of the CSRA is where there's a lot of low-lying and poor drainage areas, so you need to be very careful if you're headed out in that direction. But just to the north of it, you wouldn't know there was any rain on our Terry Lambert Hyundai Skyview cam over at the Amentum Center in Aiken. Pretty dry outside, a little bit damp from earlier, but only around 1/10 of an inch of rain today in Aiken. 75 degrees now here in town, breezy for sure, winds at 14 miles per hour from the southeast, and a dew point of 71 degrees. We're sitting anywhere from those mid to upper 70s and even some 80s right now. 80 degrees in Thompson, 78 in Lincolnton and Edgefield. Aiken, you're at 77. A little bit cooler down in Barnwell at 73, but 81 right next door in Allendale. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, there's that stationary front. This will be here for tomorrow as well. So more potential of flooding with those heavy downpours. Then right after that, we're dealing with Idalia. So this is down in the Gulf of Mexico, the western coast of Cuba right now. And outside of that, we also have Hurricane Franklin. Luckily for us, we don't have to worry about that one. All the focus now is on Idalia. Winds at 70 miles per hour, is rapidly intensifying as it moves into the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. And I'm expecting this to become a hurricane within the next few hours. Now, what's steering Idalia is this trough located across the central United States and high pressure out in the Atlantic. This will cause it to move up towards the north, rapidly intensifying to a major hurricane. And then the location of this trough, along with that stationary front, will really determine if it's going to take a more eastward track or a more westward track. And today's models are showing a more so westward track, which means more impacts to the CSRA. You can see here, Category 3 hurricane by early Wednesday morning as it makes its way towards the Big Bend of Florida. That's likely where there will be a landfall sometime late Wednesday morning or early afternoon. Then even by the time it's in southern Georgia around Valdosta, still a Category 1 hurricane. Then it will stay right along the coastline here of Georgia, South Carolina, eventually just as a strong tropical storm. But even that will bring us some pretty significant impacts here in town. Here's our futurecast tomorrow morning. There's that front still bringing us a few storms. Idalia making its way towards Florida as a hurricane. Very significant storm surge all along the western coast of Florida. And then those heavy rain bands starting to make their way towards the CSRA starting Wednesday, continuing through Wednesday night. That's when the eye of Idalia will be right around Savannah, Charleston, for example. And then even by Thursday morning, still some of those leftover rain bands. Here's a closer look at home tomorrow afternoon. We'll start to see those storms pop up. Once again, just like the past 2 days, these storms could bring some very heavy rain, which could cause some flooding. So keep that in mind for Tuesday. That's why we have a Viper 6 alert day. There is that slight risk of some flooding, but a much higher chance of more widespread flooding as we go into Wednesday. And here's your futurecast there with Idalia. Waves of rainfall throughout the day on Wednesday, pretty much not getting a break. The heaviest rainfall to the south of Augusta, mostly in our southeast counties. So keep that in mind if you're anywhere, say, from Barnwell over into Swainsboro. That's where rainfall totals could reach 6 inches. However, our northwestern counties, much lower of a chance there. Wind probabilities as well. There is a chance that we could have tropical storm force winds that would be gusts up to 40 miles per hour. Also, an isolated tornado threat that we can't rule out. Now let's go to our 10-day forecast. We're going to see some major changes after Idalia. The weather improves significantly, plenty of sunshine, and our temperatures will be cooling down. We'll be in the mid to upper 80s all the way through Labor Day weekend.
I like the cool down part.
Yes, that'll be the nice part from Idalia. It's bringing in all that cooler and drier air.
Thanks so much. Well, still ahead, information on when the trial for former President Trump and team will take place. Stay tuned.
Do you
A federal judge in Washington has set the date for when former President Donald Trump's trial related to the January 6th Capitol riot will begin in D.C. and Wynn has the details.
Former President Trump and his 18 co-defendants are now set for their first court appearance in their election interference case in Fulton County, Georgia. A local judge has determined they will be arraigned separately in 15-minute increments on September 6th, with Trump going first.
We'll see the former president enter some kind of plea along with the other defendants.
One of the co-defendants, former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, had a hearing in federal court today, arguing that his trial should be moved from Fulton County to federal jurisdiction. And in a surprise move, Meadows took the stand to make his case. District Attorney Fani Willis has accused Meadows of taking part in a sweeping conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in the state. Meadows was on the phone call between Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger following Trump's election loss.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Meadows claims his case should be moved to federal court because the actions he undertook were part of his chief of staff duties and were done at the direction of former President Trump. During today's hearing, Meadows testified that part of his job was to be in almost every meeting the president had. The DA had subpoenaed Raffensperger and other witnesses to make her case that Meadows violated the Hatch Act, which bars federal employees from using their official roles to engage in partisan political activity. At least 4 other defendants are also seeking to move their case to federal court.
And I think if you look at it, it was most likely that he was operating as a part of the Republican Party, which would be a political role and not his official role as the chief of staff.
And in Washington, a judge ruled that Trump's federal trial on charges related to trying to overturn the 2020 election, including his rhetoric leading up to the deadly January 6th attack on the Capitol, will begin March 4th of next year, the day before Super Tuesday on the GOP primary calendar. Wynn, ABC News, Washington.
Your hospital is right for you.
If you've been arrested for a DUI in Georgia, you may only have 30 days to protect your license or your privilege to drive here. Hi, I'm Tiffany Duncan of DUI Duncan, the DUI firm here in Augusta. Visit our website at DUIDuncan.com to see what we've done to help so many drivers. If you've been arrested for a DUI in Georgia, call me now for a free consultation. While the firm, of course, cannot guarantee results, we do guarantee hard work and fast action.
Remember the name, DUI Duncan. Do you suffer? Then count on.
Just 5 days before the Georgia Bulldogs kick off of the 2023 season to defend their national championship, some very sad news for Bulldog Nation. Sonny Seiler has died. Georgia fans know him as the patriarch of the family that raised and cared for the line of UGA mascots for the last 6 decades. The university said he died after a short illness, and Seiler became a national star for his role in the best-selling book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and both he and UGA had cameo roles in the movie. Earlier this year, his son Charlie described how the tradition started. Tonight, Georgia head coach Kirby Smart released a statement on social media that read, "Deeply saddened by the passing of Mr. Sonny Seiler, his dedication to our university and our cherished mascot will forever be remembered. We're sending condolences to the Seiler family during this difficult time." You can read more about Mr. Seiler at WJBF.com. And early on Monday, Smart spoke to the media ahead of Georgia's season opener against UT Martin, and he had a lot to say about the issues regarding the entirety of college athletics and some of the changes he'd like to see implemented in the future.
I'm for whatever helps curb the gambling issues, because I think it's a major issue in all of sports. That's an area that's really hard to police for us as coaches, because outside of this building, what they come in contact with, what information they may or may not share, is scary. But as far as the uniform injury policy, I would have no issue with that. I always defer to Sankey and the leadership of our conference, because he does such a good job of seeing it from 10,000 feet and not from the view of just one coach. If there was a standard reporting procedure that was more uniform, it'd probably make it better, but you're not going to make the people go away that still want to go dig and find and ask questions and try to gather a competitive advantage.
The Bulldogs open their season against UT Martin on September 2nd. Well, you can also take a walk through the history of the Atlanta Braves at the Augusta-Richmond County Library. It is the personal collection of local baseball historian Mr. Lamar Gerard. Mr. Gerard began collecting as a kid, but started to pursue it more seriously about 20 years ago. His collection includes items such as player cards, 57 years of Braves schedules, original game tickets, and pennant flags from the 1960s. There's also so much more, and he hopes that people will enjoy the exhibit and discover a new love for what has become known as America's team due to its exposure on television.
It's very accessible to people, and they have these beautiful display cases, and they are open to, during the year, different exhibits. So this is probably my 6th baseball exhibit. The Braves franchise started in Boston. They went from Boston to Milwaukee, and then from Milwaukee to Atlanta. So what we have here is an opening day ticket when the Braves came to Atlanta. It was in 1966 in April, and then they lost that first game and they had to go to New York, and this is this first win ticket in New York. And they played the Mets, and an Augusta pitcher, a guy that went to Richmond Academy named Jack Fisher, we got his card over there. He was the losing pitcher of that game. The only way people are going to know history is if somebody passes it on. And so if you're willing to share it, I think the public has an appreciation. But if you just keep this at home in a closet or store it up somewhere and you're just the only one looking at it, and to me, the way to do it is to get out in the public with it, let people see. And so you go back to Boston, you go through Milwaukee, and now we're in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta has a fabulous team this year, and they have a fabulous franchise. So just appreciation of how strong the Atlanta Braves organization and their team is.
The exhibit opened at the beginning of the month and will remain open through October. That does it for sports. We'll be right back.
Davis on Deansbridge, your one-stop shop for everything home. Update your bedroom suite or mattress set today. We offer no credit needed financing and delivery options to meet your needs. For the top brands at the lowest prices, visit us at Davis Appliance and Furniture. At Davis Appliance and Furniture, we have the best deals in town. It's the perfect time to update your living space with a new sectional or get that big TV you've always wanted. We offer no credit needed financing and delivery options to meet your needs. For the top brands at the lowest prices, visit Davis Appliance and Furniture.
And last but not least, reenactors and historians from several states are giving visitors a taste of what life was like in the 1860s.
The highlight of the event is a Civil War battle reenactment.
Hannah Jackson has the story.
First, we're going to go to weather. So we have Viper 6 alert days in effect, as I'm sure you know by now. Tuesday and Wednesday, we are still tracking Tropical Storm Idalia. We will also have a stationary front in our area tomorrow, which will still bring these showers and storms that could produce some heavy rain and some flooding. And then on Wednesday, that's when we'll have the Idalia impacts.
Finally going to see some sun though towards the end of the week, right?
That's right. Labor Day weekend looks so much better. It's
Oh,
going to be
thank
sunny.
goodness.
That's the good part about Idalia. It's bringing in the drier and cooler air behind it. Look at those low temperatures. We're used to the low 70s, but we're going to be in the low 60s, maybe even some upper 50s for your Friday and Saturday morning. So a taste of fall.
And then the 90 for tomorrow should be going down quickly once the rain moves in.
Yes, exactly. And those 80s on Wednesday and Thursday may even be some upper 70s. I'm on the fence about it.
Love it.
So that's the good part.
I
But
would
it will be
love
raining
to
all day.
see those 80s drop into the high 70s.
That would be perfect.
Great.
Yes. Labor Day weekend definitely looks the best though. So if you have any outdoor plans or activities you want to do, save those until then. You do not want to be doing anything on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's when it'll be raining pretty much all day long, but just wait
Monday's
till
the
the
day
weekend.
to go to the pool or go kayaking or something.
Hang out for the holiday.
Yeah,
So
something like that.
let me ask you this: so people getting up to go to work tomorrow, should they just take the umbrellas for tomorrow, or when should they expect the rain to start
Yeah,
moving in?
tomorrow would be good. We'll have some of those isolated storms, so not everyone will get some rain, but similar to what we're seeing now. I was just talking about that aerial flood advisory. A part of Barnwell County has 6 inches of rain right now over just the past 3 hours.
Wow.
So that could be the case for tomorrow as well. Not widespread rain, but just some isolated locations dealing with the rain. So bring all that rain gear for tomorrow just in case. But for Wednesday, the entire CSRA dealing with that rainfall for sure. So, you know, I think there's a chance maybe even schools will be out. It depends on if we have tropical storm warnings or not. So we'll keep you updated on that on air and on the web, of course, with your latest
And we can
forecast.
put the rain gear away starting when? Friday? Is Friday the
That's
day?
right. Friday's the day.
That's when
Plenty
it
of
can
sunshine.
all go back in the closet. No
for
more
the
rain
weekend.
gear
Maybe
at that
even some
point.
jackets needed with those upper 50s in the morning.
Would love to see that.
Yeah.
Some fall temperatures.
Yep.
Not bad. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this edition of News Channel 6. But we are back at the top of the hour on WJBF News Channel 6 at 11.
Hogan's Heroes is next.
We are tracking Tropical Storm Idalia, which will become a hurricane later on tonight. We have Viper 6 alert days in effect for tomorrow and Wednesday due to impacts likely across the CSRA. I'll have all the details and everything you can expect coming up.
Right now on News Channel 6 at 11, the latest on a deadly shooting at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Plus, a look at partnerships to help feed local people in need. And the medical cannabis industry coming to the CSRA, but not everyone wants to see it here. Your News at 11 starts now.
Live from Television Park, this is WJBF News Channel 6 at 11.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching News Channel 6 at 11. I'm Dee Griffin. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, before we get to the big stories of the day, we join meteorologist Jenna Petracci for a first look at changes coming to our area due to Tropical Storm Idalia. Jenna.
That's right, Dee. I'm watching the tropics closely. In addition to the storms we're dealing with tonight, very similar to last night, we have this stationary front across the CSRA, which is allowing storms to develop and then linger, leading to flooding. In fact, the Atlanta area dealing with a lot of widespread ongoing rain, which has caused a flash flood warning to go now across the metro. For us, we had aerial flood advisories earlier, but things are starting to improve. Notice the majority of the CSRA nice and dry, but I want to draw your attention to this portion of rain. This is right around Jackson, Aiken, Barnwell, and Burke County. That's where there was an aerial flood advisory that just expired around 15 minutes ago. And thank goodness, because they had plenty of rain. No need for any more. Luckily, just some light rainfall now. Check out these totals. This says within 6 hours, but really within the past 3 hours alone, 6.5 inches of rain right along State Highway 125. This is Savannah Riverside, right around here. And Savannah Riverside law enforcement actually reported some puddling on the roadways, actually a significant amount of water there on Highway 125, and even a pretty large area here, around 3 to 6 inches of rain right along the river here into Georgia. That's where there's also some of that high rainfall totals. So that is a whole lot of rain over a short period of time. But just to the north over in Aiken, not looking bad at all. Roads are actually pretty dry. Not a lot of rain across Augusta or Aiken today, and it was a hot and humid day once again. 93 degrees was our high today, low of 70 degrees. And our temperatures now are in the low to mid 70s for the most part. 79 in Thompson, Allendale at 77, Augusta at 75, 78 in Lincoln, and 79 down in Washington. Our winds are coming in from the southeast. This is bringing us abundant moisture. We'll provide more showers and storms tomorrow as we get ready for Tropical Storm Idalia to head our way. Pretty breezy tonight as well with that stationary front across our area. Showers and storms all across the southeast. And there's Idalia off the coast of western Cuba. That's what we're keeping an eye on over the next couple of days. And I am expecting Idalia to become a hurricane within the next few hours. It's only a few miles per hour shy of hurricane status now, and it's going to continue to rapidly intensify as it moves into the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and could possibly make landfall as a major hurricane. That would be a Category 3. So we have Viper 6 alert days Tuesday and Wednesday. Heavy rain and flooding tomorrow from that front. Then we track Idalia as it will move in Wednesday, bringing impacts through Thursday morning. And those impacts include rainstorms and strong winds, maybe even a tornado threat. I'll have all those details coming up, but back to you, Dave.
All right, thanks so much, Jenna. A local church is partnering with Golden. A University of North Carolina faculty member is dead and a suspect is in custody. Here's the latest from Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Why today? Why at all?
The fanfare of a new school year now turning into a school shooting investigation for UNC Charlotte students and staff. 6 days into the new semester, authorities say a suspect went onto campus and shot and killed a faculty member.
Talked with the faculty who were there in the building at the time of the shooting and some of the students, and said they're certainly traumatized.
They called Hill Labs. First to a gunshot.
At 1:02, authorities were dispatched to a reported 911 call about a shooter inside of Cottle's Labs on campus. At 1:04, an alert went out. Emergency, armed, dangerous person on or near campus. Get inside now, avoid windows.
Apparently, there's an armed and dangerous person on campus right now.
Ben Copeland's brother Sam, a freshman at UNC Chapel Hill, sending this message to his family.
I am safe and in my dorm. Already texted all of my friends,
letting them know he was hiding with friends inside his dorm.
I heard gunshots, yeah, like turned around and booked it back to my dorm.
You know, your brother literally just started college last week, and already there's, a shooting on campus. It's just, it's...
Meanwhile, radio communication between law enforcement agencies showing the tense moments when medical responders were told to take cover to avoid potential interaction with the suspected shooter.
All your units on scene. Need you to retreat to the other side of the bell tower.
News partner Cassie Fambro taking this photo of a broken window at Cottle's lab with a single bullet hole in it. Taken just moments before authorities announced the chaos was over and a suspect had been arrested. News not as comforting for Sam and the rest of his classmates, who have an entire year still ahead of them.
So, every single time, nothing changes, and it's kind of like, what more needs to happen for people to actually realize that change is the only way that things will get better, and that has yet to happen.
The identities of the victim and shooter have not been released, and classes are canceled for tomorrow. Well, a North Augusta City Council member has been arrested and charged with driving under the influence. A public safety officer says Jennifer McCauley was pulled over after she was reportedly seen driving on East Avenue without her headlights on at 10:30 Friday night. An officer says she drove through a stop sign and was unable to maintain her balance during a sobriety test. McCauley was registered at a .14 blood alcohol level. She is charged with first offense DUI. Well, the CSRA's first medical cannabis dispensary. Well, coming up, our Viper 16 was keeping track of Tropical Storm Idalia. We'll join meteorologist Jennifer Tracci for her full forecast after the break. Stay with us.
And buffalo chicken dip bites.
Weather headlines on News Channel 6, brought to you by Jamie Casino Injury Attorneys. Now, your most accurate forecast with WJBF Live Viper 6.
Good Monday evening. Similar to last night, we've been dealing with some flooding concerns today, especially out in western Georgia across the Atlanta metro. That's where there's now a flash flood warning that goes until almost 2 o'clock in the morning. For the CSRA, no flash flood warnings, but we did have an aerial flood advisory for one location just a little bit ago. It expired at 10:45. Notice all the rain starting to let up now across the CSRA. Not looking bad at all. But I want to put us through a 4-hour loop of Live Viper 6. Notice this rain that developed over the border of Barnwell, Aiken, and Burke County, and then caused an aerial flood advisory to be issued, rightfully so. Look at all this heavy rainfall that just lingered over the area. Once again, this expired at 10:45, and you can see now just some light rain around Jackson, looking much better. But earlier, we picked up a lot of rainfall. Check this out, 6.6 inches of rain right along State Highway 125. This is right along the location of Savannah River site, and the Savannah River site law enforcement actually reported a good amount of rainfall on Highway 125. So very significant amounts here. Even outside of that area, still 2-3 inches of rain over the past few hours. A lot of rainfall to pick up over a short period of time. And to put that into perspective, we're forecasting for up to 6 inches of rain from Tropical Storm Idalia, but that's over a pretty long period of time, from Tuesday night all the way into Thursday. So notice across the CSRA today, 24-hour rainfall totals not too impressive for most of us, under 3/4 of an inch in Aiken. And speaking of Aiken, here's our Terry Lambert Hyundai Skyview cam. Not looking too wet outside, pretty nice now, 75 degrees here in town, dew point of 70, another muggy night with all of us in the mid-70s to upper 70s, even 80 degrees now in Gibson, 76 in Aiken. So the storms are due to this stationary front. This will allow storms to develop and then linger and not really dissipate very quickly. So this will be the case for our Tuesday as well. That's why we have issued a Viper 6 alert day, due to the fact of we could have the possibility of flooding. Now, of course, we also have a Viper 6 alert day for Wednesday due to Tropical Storm Idalia, which will soon become Hurricane Idalia. Winds are at 70 miles per hour. It's just off the western coast of Cuba, so just a few miles per hour shy of hurricane status. Now, Idalia will be steered up towards the north, making landfall around the Big Bend of Florida. That is due to this upper level trough that's going to steer it towards the east, and also high pressure out in the Atlantic. Now, the location of this trough, though, in that stationary front will really impact the forecast. Now, today's latest track does show it taking a more westward turn compared to what we saw yesterday. It's possible as well that Idalia could become a major hurricane and maybe even make landfall as a Category 3. Once again, anywhere from the Emerald Coast of Florida down into the Big Bend just outside of Tampa. Then it will travel along the Georgia-South Carolina coastline, maintaining tropical storm strength, 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's pretty significant and will definitely cause some impacts here in the CSRA. So here's that stationary front across our area Tuesday. Then Idalia bringing that surge of moisture. So we'll have definitely the potential of heavy rain Tuesday, but really things pick up on Wednesday. Here's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The center of the storm traveling along the coastline and really impacting us Wednesday night into Thursday morning as well. So this will be a pretty long event of waves of rainfall. But for tomorrow, there's those storms developing. Some of these could definitely lead to some flash flooding. That's the biggest concern. No severe weather threat tomorrow, just that very heavy rain that will continue all the way till Tuesday night. Then we'll pick things up Wednesday morning. Outer rain bands of Idalia moving in. The entire CSRA covered with that rainfall, but definitely our southern and eastern portions dealing with the worst impacts, as opposed to our northwestern counties getting spared a little bit. You can definitely see that on our Futurecast rainfall totals amount. Definitely up to 6 inches possible south of Augusta, but really only up to 2 inches in other places. So widespread showers, some strong storms, definitely the chance of some tropical storm force wind gusts as well, 40+ miles per hour, 2 to 6 inches of rain, and we also can't rule out the possibility of some isolated tornadoes. So we do have the Viper 6 alert days for Tuesday and Wednesday. After that, though, looking so much better as we go into Labor Day weekend. The good thing about Idalia is that it's bringing in some drier and cooler air, so our temperatures will drop into the mid-80s. And we'll even have some upper 50s possibly in the morning.
Loving that. Definitely a fake fall for us, thanks to
Yes.
Adalia, but we have to be careful to watch out for her. Or it, rather. It's no gender, but yeah.
Yeah. That's right, Dee.
Thanks a lot. Well, coming up, the latest on the events that took place on the same day as the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. The details up next. But first, the winning numbers. Thank you, Director Chris, for always getting me on point with the lottery numbers. The South Carolina Pick 3 numbers, 7, 7, 8, and the Fireball is 6. And the Pick 4 winning numbers, 3, 0, 2, 7, and the Fireball is 6. Imagine that. Community leaders are mourning the victims of a racially motivated attack in Jacksonville, Florida. The shooting comes on the same day as the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington taking place in the nation's capital. Here's Rashad Hudson with more.
On the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, President Biden met with civil rights leaders, including members of the King family.
We know we got a lot more work to do.
The president spoke with them about the importance of preserving history to not repeat past mistakes.
I never thought that I'd be president, let alone be president, and having a discussion on why books are being banned.
Over the weekend, hundreds gathered at the Lincoln Memorial. Damon Hewitt, a civil rights attorney, says the fight for equality must continue.
It is not self-executing. We must protect it and defend it by all peaceful means necessary.
But as people were commemorating a turning point in the civil rights movement down in Jacksonville, Florida, a white gunman went on a shooting rampage, killing 3 black people. President Biden denounced the shooting and said there's no place for white supremacy in America.
We can't let hate prevail, and it's on the rise. It's not diminishing.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was booed by the crowd at a vigil for the victims. Still, he calls the shooting unacceptable.
Targeting people due to their race has no place in the state of Florida.
President Biden says law enforcement has opened a federal civil rights investigation and is treating the incident as a possible hate crime and an act of domestic violent extremism. Reporting in Washington, Rashad Hudson.
Zaxby Sanford today. Now, WJBF sports coverage you can count on.
Just 5 days before the Georgia Bulldogs kick off the 2023 season to defend their national championship came some sad news for Bulldog Nation. Sonny Seiler has died. Georgia fans know him as the patriarch of the family that raised and cared for the line of UGA mascots for the last 6 decades, and the university said he died after a short illness. Seiler became a national star for his role in the best-selling book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and both he and UGA had cameo roles in the movie. Earlier this year, his son Charles remembered how the tradition started.
They were given a white English bulldog as a wedding present.
Sports coverage you can count on.
Just 5 days before the Georgia Bulldogs kick off the 2023 season to defend their national championship came some sad news for Bulldog Nation. Sonny Seiler has died. Georgia fans know him as the patriarch of the family that raised and cared for the line of UGA mascots for the last 6 decades, and the university said he died after a short illness. Seiler became a national star for his role in the best-selling book Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and both he and UGA had cameo roles in the movie. Earlier this year, his son Charles remembered how the tradition started.
They were given a white English bulldog as a wedding present, and at fraternity house one day, after lunch and after drinking a few iced teas, everybody decided, hey, let's take him to the game.
After news broke, Georgia head coach Kirby Smart released a statement on social media that read, "Deeply saddened by the passing of Mr. Sonny Seiler, his dedication to our university and our cherished mascot will forever be remembered. Sending my condolences to the Seiler family during this difficult time." And you can read more about Mr. Seiler at WJBF.com. Earlier on Monday, Coach Smart spoke to the media ahead of Georgia's season opener against UT Martin, and he had a lot to say about the issues regarding the entirety of college athletics, as well as some of the changes he'd like to see implemented in the future.
I'm for whatever helps curb the gambling issues, because I think it's a major issue in all of sports. That's an area that's really hard to police for us as coaches, because outside of this building, what they come in contact with, what information they may or may not share, is scary. But as far as the uniform injury policy, I would have no issue with that. I always defer to Sankey and the leadership of our conference because he does such a good job of seeing it from 10,000 feet and not from the view of just one coach. If there was a standard reporting procedure that was more uniform, it'd probably make it better, but you're not going to make the people go away that still want to go dig and find and ask questions and try to gather a competitive advantage.
The Bulldogs open their season against UT Martin on September 2nd. Over at the Augusta Richmond County Public Library, you can take a walk through an exhibit called The History of the Atlanta Braves, which is the personal collection of local baseball historian Mr. Lamar Gerard. Mr. Gerard began collecting as a kid, but started to pursue it more seriously about 20 years ago. His collection includes items such as player cards, 57 years of Braves schedules, original game tickets and pennant flags from the 1960s, and so much more. He hopes that people will enjoy the exhibit and discover a new love for what has historically been known as America's team.
It's very accessible to people, and they have these beautiful display cases, and they are open to, during the year, different exhibits. So this is probably my 6th baseball exhibit. The Braves franchise started in Boston. They went from Boston to Milwaukee, and then from Milwaukee to Atlanta. So what we have here is an opening day ticket when the Braves came to Atlanta. It was in 1966 in April, and then they lost that first game and they had to go to New York, and this is this first win ticket in New York. And they played the Mets, and an Augusta pitcher, a guy that went to Richmond Academy named Jack Fisher, we got his card over there. He was the losing pitcher of that game. The only way people are going to know history if it's somebody passes it on. And so if you're willing to share it, I think the public has an appreciation. But if you just keep this at home in a closet or store it up somewhere and you're just the only one looking at it, and to me, the way to do it is to get out in the public with it and let people see. And so you go back to Boston, and you go through Milwaukee, and now we're in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta has a fabulous team this year, and they have a fabulous franchise. So just appreciation of how strong the Atlanta Braves organization and their team is.
The exhibit opened at the beginning of the month and will remain open through October. And speaking of the Braves, they opened their series against the Rockies tonight and are currently winning 14-4 in the top of the ninth. That does it for sports. We'll be right back.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.